give the judges another shot at it? Forget about the fighters. I don't want to give the judges another shot at it. How's that?
This issue goes far beyond a single controversial match. What we're looking at is a recurring problem that has shadowed professional boxing for generations. Insiders often call it the A-side bias, an unwritten rule suggesting that the bigger name, the more bankable fighter, tends to receive the benefit of the doubt when the judges' pens hit the paper. Take Canelo Alvarez as a prime example. With his massive following and multi-million-dollar promotional deals, he embodies the A-side position. He's the headline attraction, the financial cornerstone, the fighter networks and promoters build entire events around. And according to veteran analyst Teddy Atlas, that kind of status can quietly tilt the scales. The fear is not always about outright corruption, but about subtle influence. Judges, whether they mean to or not, are aware of the business realities: who fills arenas, who sells pay-per-views, who keeps the sport profitable. When a bout is tight, that awareness can creep into scoring decisions, shaping outcomes that favor the fighter seen as the industry's safest investment. Atlas argues that the scorecards from the Crawford fight are a textbook example. Even in a contest that was clearly one-sided, the numbers suggested an effort to preserve the A-side narrative, to keep the marketable star protected, even at the expense of competitive fairness. It's a reminder that in boxing, the fight inside the ring isn't always the only battle being decided.
If I'm with Canelo, I think I'm happy with Cheatham. But if I'm with Crawford, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, wait a minute, hold on. This guy had, he had Canelo over Bebo.
No,
he had Bebo over Canelo. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry. He had it that close. How he had
115,
it like
113. Now listen, there's another judge on this card who will be officiating this fight, Crawford versus Canelo, Steve Weisfeld, who also scored at 115, 113. I've more singled out Tim Cheatham because of the inconsistency.
Because of his past record.
Yeah, I didn't think Loma lost to Haney. That was one of them. I just talked about the Zoo versus Fedora #1. That one, unbelievable. Richardson Hitchens versus Lemos, way too wide. Just recently, we watched a great fight. Figueroa versus Joet Gonzalez. Way too wide for Figueroa. There's been too many examples of that.
If you're looking for a concrete case study, Teddy Atlas doesn't hesitate to name one: Judge Tim Cheatham. The moment Cheatham was announced on the panel, both Atlas and Crawford's team grew uneasy. And their concern wasn't unfounded. Cheatham has built a reputation for issuing head-scratching scorecards that seem to defy both logic and consensus. Take the Dimitri Bivol versus Canelo Alvarez bout. Bivol's victory was decisive and widely recognized as such. Yet Cheatham tallied the fight 115 to 113, just a single round away from declaring it a draw. That ruling sparked immediate criticism, leaving fans and analysts questioning how such a wide gap between reality and scoring could exist. And that wasn't an isolated slip. Atlas pointed to multiple examples where Cheatham's numbers consistently leaned toward the so-called A-side, the fighter with the bigger following, higher stakes, and greater financial weight behind them. For Atlas, Cheatham's assignment to a blockbuster event like Crawford versus Alvarez wasn't just a red flag, it was a flashing warning sign that Crawford might be climbing uphill before the opening bell even rang. So what happens when someone like Teddy Atlas, a man who has dedicated his career to training champions and dissecting the sport, starts questioning the integrity of the judges? It sends shockwaves. The highly promoted Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford clash was billed as one of the decade's defining super fights. But beneath the bright lights and promotional buzz, whispers of doubt grew louder. And once the official cards were read, those doubts exploded into outrage. Atlas was livid. While fans celebrated the crowning of a new undisputed super middleweight champion, Atlas couldn't shake what he had just witnessed. In his eyes, Crawford had delivered a boxing masterclass, a performance that left little room for debate. Yet the numbers, 116 to 112, 115 to 113, and another 115 to 113, painted a very different picture. To Atlas, the outcome wasn't just disappointing, it was proof of the very bias he had warned about all along.
The thing that bothered me, there's only one thing that really did bother me, and that's why I don't want a rematch, I'll be honest. I've been in this business 50 years, too long to fool myself. Those judges should be really... They got to look in the mirror to have it that close. There's no way it was that close. Thank God he dominated. Because otherwise we might be here talking a whole different thing and really going nuts. And I would definitely break this thing.
Yes, you would. I believe you.
And maybe that. And I'd owe money. And I don't care. I would pay it. But at the end of the day, that's why I don't want to see it again. He dominated, and the judges had it that close.
Yeah.
Give the judges another shot at it. Forget about the fighters. I don't want to give the judges another shot at it.
Teddy Atlas wasn't the only prominent voice stunned by the outcome. Former NFL star and outspoken sports commentator Chad Ochocinco joined the chorus of disbelief. Watching the fight unfold, he struggled to understand how the judges' numbers could possibly reflect what millions of fans had just witnessed. On his show, Ochocinco didn't mince words. There's no way anyone could honestly believe that fight was that close. For him, the performance was clear-cut dominance. He echoed Atlas's assessment. Crawford controlled the pace, landed the sharper punches, delivered the heavier shots, and maintained relentless activity from start to finish. In his eyes, the idea of a narrow decision wasn't just puzzling, it was insulting. Ochocinco broke it down further. By his count, Crawford easily won 9 or even 10 of the rounds. At worst, he argued, Crawford might have dropped 3. And if he was being brutally honest, maybe only 2. Anything beyond that, he suggested, was simply not reality. For both men, the razor-thin scoring wasn't just a difference of opinion, it was a red flag. A warning that something was deeply flawed in the way the sport was being judged. And they weren't alone. Among analysts, commentators, and longtime insiders, the consensus was almost unanimous. Those official scorecards read like fiction, not fact.
That was a great display of boxing. And had Bud not made it so convincing, there's no way, ain't no way to judge, because I don't give a damn what they say. And no, I've never been a judge. I've never judged the fight officially. But that's not a 115, 113. That's not a 116, 12. If you watch that fight, there is no way you thought that those scores were that close. Bud dominated that fight. I'm talking about dominated. He landed cleaner shots. He landed the harder shots. He was active. Yeah, okay. So he followed him around the ring. Yeah, he was pressuring him. But guess what? Every time he come in there, he got slapped.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I really, really enjoy it. When it comes to boxing, when it comes to the sweet science, for those who know the game, who know the sport, and are not just casual fans of it, when it's done the right way, it's like art. It's like a puzzle. All you're doing is putting the pieces together. Whatever he does, I got something for that. Whatever you do, if he has something for that, you come back with something else. I mean, it's a beautiful thing when it's done the right way, and I really thoroughly enjoyed tonight's fight.
Bud won at least 9 to 10 of those rounds. Bud won 9 to 10 of those rounds. There's no way in hell, if you watched that fight, you thought Canelo won as many rounds as
Sutherland and Cheatham, they would be the first guys called into the office on Monday if a national czar came in and said, I'm going to start investigating this sport. I'm starting to look at the things that Teddy Atlas talked about and a lot of other people talked about. I'm going to start, and that a lot of fans talk about, that they're leaving the sport because of the bad judging and officiating. I'm going to start to look at it. And the 2 guys I would say to you, sir, whoever you are, I would say, sir, it might be a good place to start with a guy named Sutherland and a guy named, yes, sir, I'm not making this name up. What is the name, Teddy? Cheatham. I had Beaver winning 11 rounds. All right, even if you said 10, you'd be kind of generous. But to have it that close, I mean, come on. And then the other fights you talked about, I mean, he's got a track record where the problem with him isn't just that he's so off and the numbers are so off. They're off for always the A fighter. That's the thing that puts a light on in my mind, that puts a danger light on, is that he's always, Canelo's the A guy always, right? We know that. We don't have to dispute that. So it's not like he's on the side of the B guy. He's always on the side of the guy that the promoter would want to win. That's what bothers me.
The controversy, in Atlas's view, isn't just about one questionable judge. It's about the entire infrastructure that governs the sport. Nowhere is this more evident than in Las Vegas, boxing's glittering capital. There, the same small circle of judges is repeatedly assigned to the biggest bouts. No rotation. No infusion of fresh perspectives. It's an exclusive inner circle, a closed system that leaves little room for accountability. Atlas argues that this familiarity comes at a steep cost. Promoters, athletic commissions, and judges often operate in the same orbit, building long-standing professional ties and business relationships. Within that environment, the line between impartial officiating and protecting financial interests can blur all too easily. It's not always overt corruption, he suggests, but the culture itself makes true neutrality difficult to sustain. His solution is straightforward in principle, though challenging in practice: diversify and rotate the judging pool. By bringing in new officials, creating independent oversight, and holding scorecards up to real scrutiny, the sport could restore a measure of credibility. Atlas believes such reforms would strip away the perception that any one judge, or group of judges, holds disproportionate power over the careers of fighters. But here's the harsh reality: boxing is a billion-dollar industry. At the highest level, every outcome impacts future pay-per-view numbers, ticket sales, and global marketing opportunities. And in that kind of high-stakes environment, Atlas warns, financial pressure has a way of overpowering reform. For now, the system remains intact, closed, familiar, and resistant to change.
If you got the same officials all the time, which we're talking about, you do. I mean, just look, every time there's a big fight, you got the same guys for the most part. And again, I think that you can help a lot by rotating and getting new blood in there, and also geographically looking and saying, don't keep putting every time you put a fight in Vegas, don't put the same guys from there. Bring in guys from different locales, mix it up a little bit, because you have these promoters that have a relationship and a familiarity where the judges are more prone to go towards them. Why? Why, Teddy? Why? Because they go out to dinner with them, they give money under the table. They do go out to dinner. I'm not saying they give money under the table, I'm not saying that. But they know that those are the guys that butter their bread.
So, with the odds seemingly stacked against him, how did Terence Crawford manage to rise above and secure the victory? Teddy Atlas points to a simple but powerful answer: Crawford isn't just gifted, he's built differently. His edge isn't only in speed, skill, or technique, it's in the way his mind works under pressure. Atlas offers a striking analogy. While most fighters rely on raw athleticism and physical toughness, Crawford operates like a living supercomputer. Atlas calls him digital. In the ring, he isn't just throwing punches, he's calculating, processing, and adjusting in real time. He reads patterns, anticipates openings, and punishes mistakes with ruthless precision. Every exchange is broken down, analyzed, and answered before his opponent even realizes what's happening. But Atlas insists that Crawford's mental sharpness has a deeper root. Years ago, Crawford survived being shot, a life-threatening ordeal that could have broken another man. Instead, it hardened him. That brush with death rewired his outlook, convincing him that nothing he would ever face under the lights could compare to what he had already endured. That unshakable resilience is what gave Crawford ice in his veins the night he stepped into the ring with Canelo Alvarez. With the weight of boxing's expectations pressing down, Crawford didn't fold. He embraced it. He treated the fight not as a burden, but as an opportunity to prove that no amount of bias, politics, or pressure could shake his resolve. And in doing so, he delivered a performance that will be remembered not just as a win, but as a defining chapter in boxing history.
Tried to bury Terence Crawford. They tried to ruin his reputation and say that he wasn't a draw when the numbers were there for you to see. When he went to MSG against guys that didn't have big names or that were faded, like Amir Khan, or when he fought Kaviaskis, he did numbers. There was a smear campaign about his personality. He doesn't talk. Nobody wants to hear him. No, that you don't want to hear him. So you try to speak for the masses when the whole time you have a star right here. You got to learn how to talk to this man. Even as recent as his last fight, the fight before Canelo, the smear campaign continued. I don't hear the smear campaign now. Them voices got really, really quiet like they typically do when they get proven wrong. And they either try to jump on the wagon, I knew this kid was going to be that, or they get very, very quiet and they start to retreat back to wherever they came from and they don't have a lot to say. So I'm happy for this brother for that reason, because they tried to bury him, Roy. It didn't work. He overcame that. He said, give me my shot. I'm going to show you and he kept doing it time and time again, and he did it again against Canelo Alvarez Saturday night.
And then there's Canelo Alvarez, the man who walked in as boxing's king but left with his crown shattered. Teddy Atlas didn't just see a loss on the scorecards. He saw a fighter mentally dismantled. Crawford didn't simply outbox him, he outthought him, stripped away his confidence, and left him searching for answers. Atlas went so far as to say that if Crawford had pushed just a little harder in the late rounds, Canelo might have quit on his stool. For a man long regarded as the face of modern boxing, this was more than defeat. It was humiliation. The kind of humbling that forces fans and analysts alike to re-evaluate a fighter's entire legacy. Will Canelo ultimately be remembered as one of the sport's greats, or will this night, coupled with the shadow of dubious scorecards, forever leave a stain on his reputation? According to Atlas, the dent is there, and it's not going away. But this story isn't just about Canelo's fall or Crawford's triumph. It cuts to the very core of boxing itself. Because those suspiciously close scorecards, in a fight that was anything but close, reflect a problem larger than any single fighter. They expose a system that too often bends to money, politics, and influence. A sport that prides itself on fairness and discipline now faces accusations of corruption and manipulation. That leaves fans with an uncomfortable question: can we still trust what happens inside the ring? Or has boxing's sweet science been compromised, transformed into little more than a spectacle where outcomes are tilted before the first punch is thrown? The future of boxing may depend on how honestly the sport confronts that question. If reform doesn't come, the risk is clear: the audience will stop believing. And when belief dies, so too does the soul of the sport.